Well, it had to be done. I attended the Mike and the Mechanics gig in Leicester. Now let's get into it, shall we? Welcome classic rock fans to a short gig review. If you're new to this channel, please do click like, subscribe, check that notification bell, do all that stuff. Check some of the links below this video for ways you can support the sterling work done at Classic Album Review. It's always much appreciated. Well, that's that said anyway. As regard this gig, I can anticipate the comments below and what you're going to say, but I made it quite clear what I thought of this band. But the opportunity to see them live in order to review the gig and see some Genesis numbers played in the flesh as well was too good to pass up. Mike Rutherford, of course, has broken his hip, the poor old bugger. So he spends most of the show actually sat down. I suppose you could say Mike can't dance. Well, not for this tour anyway. It's hard to believe it's been 40 years since their eponymous debut album that started the ball dribbling along, so to speak. And of course the lineup is completely refreshed and bears no resemblance to the lineup on that first album, apart from Mr. Rutherford himself, of course. But the current lineup are well bedded in for an evening of soul-infused 80s pop, if that's your bag, with a spattering of a few Genesis numbers. Don't get all in a lather, of course. They didn't do Return of the Giant Hogweed. It wasn't any of the decent stuff, of course. It was stuff like Follow You, Follow Me, Land of Confusion, We Can't Dance, which went down surprisingly well, actually, and a couple of others which seem to have just slipped my mind. I have to say the music is played impeccably, the sound was absolutely immaculate, and the audience, I must admit, I've never seen so many menopausal women in one room. The sweat was just dripping down the walls. At one point I thought maybe I'd taken the wrong turn and ended up at the David Essex gig. But give them their due, they thoroughly enjoyed the show, ignoring the miserable bugger sat at the end who'd rather be at the damned gig. But they certainly built a set that was pretty extensively spread across their catalogue, with a particular nod to their debut album. I suppose also in anticipation of the new compilation album that's coming out, Mike and the Mechanics Looking Back. This will be released in April. I think it comes out in April. I'll put a card up there so you can see what I'm talking about, and there will be a purchasing link just below this video if you want to check it out. In terms of the musicians, there were fine musicians on that stage and they played the music admirably well. There has to be a shout out to Tim Howard and Andrew Roachford, whose voices were excellent. But Mike and the Mechanics are a band that demand a pretty good set of tonsils, aren't they? And that's not to mention the elfin-faced Nick Collins on drums. Mike Rutherford at one point says his dad sat behind me for 53 years, which got a huge round of applause. I'd have to state, despite my sour presence at the gig, it was a thoroughly enjoyable show. The music was played beautifully, it was thoroughly entertaining, and if you're into this AOR sort of soulful pop, if that's your bag, I think you'll like this. For me, it was just great seeing Mike Rutherford on that stage and playing some Genesis tunes, albeit from the poppier end of their oeuvre, but Genesis nonetheless. Anyway, so this is my review of the Mike and the Mechanics gig. Were you there? If you were, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I'll also put a link below this video to their tour dates if you're interested in going. Other than that, I'll leave you with my closing salvo, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and of course that you keep listening.